Welcome back to the invisible world of content. We're exploring another key pattern for omnichannel delivery, unifying the stack. This is where we bring together all the layers of customer experience with modular content practices. And they don't come together on their own. It does require some coordination. We need to make sure those structural standards, those semantic standards, and all the pieces of technology we're bringing to bear can all play together well. But this episode will really make the most sense if you're familiar with the other patterns. So if you haven't watched the other episodes in this series, I encourage you to check them out. Here, we'll begin seeing how they all interplay and affect the overall process. We'll look at how we can bring these patterns and the technology that supports them into harmony. That's how we do it, unifying and orchestrating people, process, and technology. Okay? Let's dive in and unify the stack. Number 5 is unifying the content stack. All right, so we know that we need to connect up everything in an environment for omnichannel to work. But what does that mean? How do we wire it all together? Well, let's look at where we traditionally focus. Number 1, technology. Pretty straightforward. We see a lot of projects where we come in because there's a CMS re-platform in place, or rebuild, or sometimes it's a re-engineer the existing platform. And there's APIs and platforms being addressed. Those are important, right? But we also need to look at the front end, right? So how that experience gets delivered in its modular form. And that's pretty straightforward too. Fortunately, design systems have been innovated over the last 5 years especially, where modular component CSS classes and other expressions of design can be integrated into a system for the presentation of content across teams. So there's patterns, right? That's an important pattern, design patterns, being applied into design systems across teams so that design is consistent for customers. We need to do that with content, of course. So the design side needs to be integrated into our stack. And then there's all the content supply side, which is often ignored. And that's the structure and the authoring and the tagging and the operations around content and all of the transforms that content goes through as it moves from authoring through management and transformation and delivery. So whether it's being localized or managed into different regions, there's a process that happens for aggregating and moving that content. That all requires tech, and that tech is part of our integrated stack. So really, the main thing we really want to work on across the integration process is bringing together all of these into coherent alignment. And content intelligence brings it all together. It is the shared structure, the shared semantics, the shared operating principles, the shared architectural standards. In some organizations, it's called something like the North Star architecture, right? That integrated architecture that helps everybody to build systems toward one set of approaches, interoperable microservices. So that needs to exist within content. It needs to exist within omnichannel programs and customer experience programs in order to unify coherently everything. So when we look at pattern number 5 and we talk about bringing it all together, integrating it all, we're not talking about a tech project in isolation. We're talking about all the other patterns being applied to the different parts of the tech stack, the different parts of our process, and the different parts of our engineering of content itself. That is what allows the unity of our customer experience across channels, platforms, devices, people, and teams in a way that works together. So, of course, I would be remiss in not reminding us that the models are the source of understanding about structure and semantics shared by designers and developers and authors and technologists and architects, right? Everybody, regardless of role and title, can share a content system, can share a set of understanding about this invisible world of content that helps all of these things work together well. The patterns in the design system and the content system have to work together across every aspect of the digital lifecycle. Once a content model is in place, we can connect it to systems of activation that allow us to manage the content and the visual presentation in system. That way, decoupled content can move and be managed by those teams working within the individual in-place systems.
On the next episode of The Invisible World of Content,
morale and effectiveness improves. When we have patterns in place to depend on, it's easier to do creative work, right? Because we have a clear set of guidelines and operating procedures that will let our creative work express itself in the most effective way for our audience and for the broader enterprise. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch the latest episodes. Check out all the content on simpleA.com. And until we meet again, let's take one step at a time towards a smarter world.